Who should we start with? We should start with Cameron. Although I should have just picked somebody who's on their phone.
You hear somebody else did it?
Yeah, why didn't you pack it out yet?
Because I was getting it around.
I see that. I wasn't gonna pick Joey, but that was like 3 days in a row, so I couldn't. Helena. What do those all have in common? Like if you were trying to write the equation in slope-intercept form, they're all missing a number. What number are they all missing? The intercept. Yeah, not the bottom. I mean, I guess they kind of are all whole numbers. I didn't even notice that either. Every one of these pictures goes through 0, 0. So the y-intercept for all of them is 0. That's all they have in common. Now all this is doing is trying to show you that we're going to work with straight lines that only have a slope. And that's the only number they're going to have. So on the bottom of the page is talking about varying directly. And that's what these problems are. So these are going to be equations that have a slope but no y-intercept. Do any of you guys do chores for like hourly wage at home or something like that? I don't know. I know every parent sets up allowance and stuff differently. Do you guys like mow the lawns for? Yeah. I was thinking more like a job that pays you per hour, you know. Like somebody who mows lawns might get like $10 an hour or something like that. Well, these would be the situations for that because you're not starting at any amount of money. Like if you don't work, you have $0. And then the more you work, the more you get, $10 per hour. So if I'm looking at this first one, it says the value of y varies directly with x. That first sentence is just to tell you that it's one of those. That means what we're going to do to write down first. What we're going to write down first is y equals kx. And then the sole point of that is that you're just trying to figure out what that number is going to be. Yeah. Or did you get it at home? Why wouldn't you have to get it at yeah, go for it. Oh. That's kind of an important thing. We definitely can. We're just trying to figure out what number is the multiplier. So then they're going to give us two numbers to tell us how they compare. So when it says y is 10 when x is 2, well, we're just going to put those numbers in. And when you put those two numbers in, you can kind of figure out that number immediately. So we figured out k is 5. Are we okay with the 5? Do you want me to explain where the 5 came from? Yes? So were you okay with the 10 and the 2? Well, so it told us that y was 10 when x is 2. So I just put 10 in place of y, I put 2 in place of x. So then this says 10 equals k times 2. So I divided by 2 and just kind of like solve it like an x or something like that. Yeah.
Where'd you get the K?
It doesn't have to be a k. Like up here, these were all straight lines that all had a different slope, right? We were basically just trying to figure out what that slope number would be. If you want to put an m there, you can. I mean, whatever makes more sense to you works. K is just what they'll commonly use later on, like in Algebra 2. They call it the constant of differentiation. No. I was just kind of pausing here to see if everybody's okay with the 5. Once you figure out that that k is 5, you're gonna rewrite the equation with the 5. We figured out it's 5. And then there's an actual question at the end that we hadn't done yet. It says figure out y when x is 6. Now, I bet some of you could have figured out it was 30 ahead of time, because you probably did like portions in your head, right? Like that number's 5 times bigger, so it's 5 times bigger. Okay. So I'm gonna put the 6 in place of x. So you're gonna get 2 answers for these. You're gonna figure out what this multiplier is, and then they're gonna ask you a question to figure out a second number. And I don't think you guys have done questions like this before, right? Okay, that's what I figured. That's kind of why I wanted to take it slow. Anything you guys want me to talk about from that first one that you're just confused where a number even came from, or why I did something? Okay, we can try a second one, see if it starts to make a little more sense along the way. So the value of y varies directly with x. That's just the sentence that tells us to write this. That's all it's doing, is it's telling us it's going to look like that. And then it has to give you 2 numbers to figure out the multiplier, the k. So then I put those 2 numbers where it says to. And then you're going to solve for k each time. And it's pretty much always going to be divided by that number. So what do I get? 0.5? And absolutely your calculators are, you're probably going to want to use them throughout this packet at some point. So 6 divided by 12 is half, or 0.5. Now once I figured out what that number should be, then I'm going to rewrite the equation with the number in. And I'll try to somewhat write it the same all the time, so it's, you get used to it. And that way in your notes it will look the same. And then over here it says find y when x is 27, so I'm going to put that number in place of x. Although this answer is not going to work out good. 27 was a bad choice. 13.5? How are you feeling on that? I think there's 2 more. Okay, I'll leave those 2 for you guys to do. Go ahead. If you, I mean, like, ask away if you have it. Whenever you guys do problems that are new to you, they may seem weird or like you're not sure where things are coming from, that's definitely what I can help you with. If it's a problem you've seen before, then you kind of somewhat know the setup. Yeah. Okay. All right. My guess is you're going to be really good at these. Cameron, now you're on your phone.
Sorry.
Okay, Cameron, help me out. This is write it in slope-intercept form. Do you remember what slope-intercept form was? Good, that's why I figured you guys would go through these pretty quick. How would I write y equals mx plus b if we were told the slope and the intercept? What number goes on the x? The slope, yep. What number goes by itself? Okay. That's it. These are golden questions on the test. You're just supposed to write that info in an equation. Did you do a lot of slope between 2 points last year then too? So this probably should be set up pretty good for you. Jaden. Help me out. Do you remember the slope between 2 points? How to do it? Or do you want me to give you the formula first or anything? I suppose it's a good idea for you guys to write it down, huh? The slope formula is you subtract the y numbers, and then you divide by the x numbers being subtracted. It doesn't matter which point you pick as first or second, you just have to make sure to keep the same formula. Do you want me to do it first, Jaden? Okay. So like say this one. If I decide to subtract the y numbers going that direction, then I have to make sure to subtract the x numbers going that direction. But it works the opposite way. I'll just show you both ways. So I can write 5 minus 4 divided by negative 3 minus 1, and I would get negative 1/4. Or I could go the other direction and also get negative 1/4. The only thing that does matter is you have to go the same direction. So if I decide this is the second point, then those numbers go first. So like I would do 4 minus 5. And then the x's on the bottom would be 1 minus negative 3. If I decided I want to make that the second point, that's fine. It'll work both ways. Oh, you can't see. Do you guys want me to do a couple more of these with you? Like you feel like these are pretty straightforward? Okay. Jaden, do you think you could tell me how to set up the second one? And I'll let you guys finish the problem, but just hoping you can help me set it up. Like what numbers would I write where? 2 minus 1. Oh, backwards. So 2 is like the x number because they're first. So the y's are the second numbers. Those are the ones that are always going to go together, like the 5 and the 1. So you want to do 5 minus 1 on top? So if I decide to do 5 minus 1 on top, what numbers would go on the bottom? Perfect. The important thing is just to keep the same order. Okay, well, I think there's 3 rows of these, right? No, I'll do this one with you because I didn't know if you guys would know what stairs and risers were. I was guessing you probably didn't know those terms. Or no, treads and risers? Yeah. Do you guys know what those are? Okay. Your steps at home, right? Whenever you have steps, this thing is called the tread. The thing that goes up is called the riser. And usually when you're making steps, they're separate boards, so that's why they have separate ones. Otherwise, it wouldn't matter at all. But the reason this matters is because this problem kind of specifically says which one is which number. So this one is saying 9-inch treads, which means this number is 9, and 8.5-inch risers, which means that number is 8.5. John? Do you remember when we were graphing yesterday? How did everybody phrase slope when they were trying to graph it? Like there's a phrase that goes with slope.
Like, slope point?
I'm trying to figure out how to ask it without just saying it. Like, remember how there's 2 numbers on slope? What does the top number represent, bottom number represent?
The
Mahler, are you trying to help him out?
Rise over run.
Rise over run. Yeah, I didn't know how to phrase it without just like saying it. But yes, so rise over run is probably going to be your biggest help when you're looking at like a picture that's not on a graph. Because a lot of you guys are used to just like knowing up down like that. Well, the rise is 8.5, literally even called the risers. The run is the tread, which is 9. I'd be okay with you leaving that answer. if you do that on a calculator or something like that, or Desmos, what it would do is it would probably simplify it for you, and it would probably make it 17 over 18. But I would be okay with that number. I mean, like, I'm not expecting you guys to know how to simplify that one yet. That one's kind of a weird one. Zabi? Oh, thought you were asking a question. No. Okay, you think you could help me out on this, or do you want me to demonstrate one first? Okay, I can do that. So the next page says solve for y. All that means is that we want the y to be by itself. So on this one, we have a +1 on the y, so we would -1 from both sides. That's solved for y. How about that next one? What's the only thing we have to do to get y by itself?
+2.
Oh, you guys, that's a lot of Zabi's answers.
+2.
Still not Zabi. Okay, I was gonna say, you shouldn't get it wrong by now, because like 30 people answered it. Add 2 to both sides, because you're trying to cancel that -2. Now, I know the point of this question was different than what the directions say, so I'm okay with you answering a couple different ways. This one just says solve for y. So all you need to do is add that 2. And then it's solved for y. Like, this is correct according to the directions. I'm pretty sure that Mr. Caponigri meant for you to put it in slope-intercept form. But I would be okay with this answer because that's what it says to do. So if you were to put it in slope-intercept form, like this is one correct answer. Slope-intercept form means you basically multiply out the parentheses. And then simplify. I'd be okay with either one of those answers. Especially because the red one is like literally directly doing what you were told to do. I know this was probably the point of the question, but it didn't say that, so. Like if this is on the test and it has those directions, pick whatever you want. Nara, do you think you could help me do the third one? Okay, so what would that look like when I do that? Because I think some people might have trouble writing the answer. How do I subtract 4 from that? Over here, when we added 2, we just wrote +2 at the end. So if you're subtracting 4, yeah, you rewrite the same thing that was there, -4. You can't put the -4 with that other stuff, like they're not compatible yet. So you just write -4 at the end. And I'm gonna guess most of you probably would prefer to answer like the top one. No, you prefer the bottom one? Is that just because it looks cleaner, makes it? Answer whichever one you want. Anna, who's like wide awake from her coffee.
It's hot chocolate, so.
Not as much caffeine in hot chocolate, no. You went to Starbucks to get a hot chocolate?
This is from home.
Oh, got it. I was gonna say, that's kind of a waste. You don't go to a coffee shop for hot chocolate. Do you think you could help me? How do I find slope from a picture? So rise over run is kind of what most people go with. And like you can see that there's 2 points like highlighted, right? So rise would mean how far does it go up or down? On this one, I can see it goes down. How far is that? We can't say 2 squares. That's the problem with these. That's why these are a little bit weirder.
500?
It's 1,000. Oh, each square is 500 though, you're right. But we went from 3,000 down to 2,000. So it actually went down 1,000 even though it's 2 squares. Got a 0? And then it goes over 4 squares, but we don't really know what the square, I mean, like you can figure out the squares too. But it went from 20 to 60. So how far would that be? Yep, I was gonna say, in your head, you could kind of figure out 2 to 6. So it is 40. So the rise over run for this one would be negative 1,000 divided by 40. And if you actually divide those, you should get negative 25, I think. Does anybody know what label we would put on these? Because we've got a graph with its label. Now, I don't want to call on somebody for this one, because this one feels like a little bit harder question. Does anybody think they have a guess as to what I would label that negative 25? I forgot the negative. Well, the top number stands for cubic feet of water, thousands, barely. The bottom number stands for hours. So this negative 25 would be cubic feet of water per hour. It's always going to be this label per this label. It's always going to be that same order, because our top number is the y's, which is up and down. Would you like me to do one? Yeah, go ahead.
Do we have to write down for each problem?
Yeah, that's what's. Says, what does the slope mean?
Oh.
That's basically saying, what does it stand for, like the label. Do you guys want me to do this one with you too?
Yes.
Okay. Jada. Could you help me out? Okay, I can give some guidance if you want it. First thing we want to do is figure out the rise. So how much does it go up or down from the first one to the second one? And you gotta go by the numbers, because the squares kind of don't mean anything. Goes up 10, because you go from 10 to 20. And then we want to figure out how far it moves over from 30 to 50. 20. Okay, so rise would be the 10. Run would be the 20. So I get 1/2. Serena, what do I label it? What do I write on the 1/2? Like the label, like what does it stand for? Per, yes. So the first thing you list is the side info. And then you would say per, and it would be the bottom info. Good. Okay, this is 3 pages. I didn't want to go too far past 9 o'clock, because I figured I want to try to give you about half the hour to work, try to split it up. I think by far the thing that's going to take you the longest is the slope ones, just because you got to calculate that. You are welcome to use whatever calculator you want. Nice job.